Okay, so at least I can say the Annie joke didn't come completely out of nowhere for me. Um, it's a hard knocks life for us. There's a whole parody song here waiting to be written about the life of the Rock's pirates. With how much they backstab and betray each other and how much they infight and all of that. There is a parody of Hard Knocks life going on here that could be done. I just don't have the talent to write or edit it or make it. Someone else might. Also, it's just funny trying to put like a red cartoon wig on a rock. Okay, yay, we get back to the Yamato cover story. So, we have chapter 1157 titled The Legendary Bar. Not the legendary bard, but the legendary bar. So, we return to the Yamato cover story. We are still in Ringo, and we have it that Yamato, Ocho, and Kiku have made their way up to the grave that we saw in the previous story cover. And it was, he died protecting the village from Kaido, leaving no trace of his body behind. So this is reminding us again about the hero of Wano who was born in the West Blue and raised in the Ringo region. We still don't know who that is. A lot of people are like, oh, it's going to be Kyo, the Wicked. It's going to be Silver Axe, given that he was just introduced and that his clothes are kind of Wano-esque, kind of the same ways that, like, Shiki's are kind of Wano-esque. So it's like, possibly. We're just getting to know Kyo. We get to see him a little bit more in this chapter, but not a lot. But we get to see a little bit of him. We'll see what ends up happening with that. So we have Yamato, Ocho, and Kiku all paying their respects to the grave. And then in the background, we have Ulti and Page One having built their snowman, or at the very least, Ulti having built the snowman. And Page One is watching, and the snowman kind of looks like Kaido because it's got like the horns and it's got like the Kaido mustache. So yeah, we have like Ulti and Page One in the background making a snowman. So into the chapter, we jump forward about 2 years. We're going to find out that this is now 42 years ago instead of 44 years ago when the Rock's Pirates were formed. So the narrator is continuing. Foot Colony, Temple of the International Philanthropy Federation. Or TPF, I guess would be the way that it would go. Or TIPF, I don't know. It doesn't come up to some funny acronym or something like that. And it's this big, very nice looking building, and they are currently being robbed by the Rock's Pirates. Which is just funny. And they're just like, oh my god, this is a ton of loot, let's haul it all out. And they're all like shouting over the Denden Mushi at each other, and we have Ochoko is here, and he's like, Geist work, that's everything, so let's get out of here. And it's like, let's book it. And we see Big Mom and Gonzui and Don Marlin and Barbell. We also see Zeus and Prometheus in the background. Are they the main ones we see here? Stussy is also here. We have all of them here, and like they're all carrying like these huge bags of coins of berry and other money, all of that stuff, whatever treasure. And we have like the priests that are in charge of this place, or like they kind of look like priests. They all have like funny hats and everything. And they're like, please stop, that money was donated for poor children in need. And Big Mom's like, yeah, right, if that's true, why hasn't it been turned over? You were gonna keep it all, right? And there's like, hey, Ochoko, hey, like trying to, yell over the Denden Mushi at each other. And he's like, lower the lift, we're still underground. And it's like, they're yelling at Shiki over the Denden Mushi is what's going on. And Shiki, we cut up to presumably what is above them. And Shiki has chucked I'm assuming it looks like Shiki has chucked a smoke bomb, explosive, whatever, near them or whatever down the hole. And Shiki's just like, oh my god, I totally forgot. Which plays into the setup of the way that Shiki is at the very least portrayed in, Strong World, with him getting very forgetful or very easily confused, where he thinks a gorilla that he's known for like 20 years is his mother. Or that an island has an afro. All of that stuff. It's like, how did you survive for 20 years? You're kind of an idiot. But he's like, oh no, I totally forgot about them. And then we see not Big Mom. We see Kaido and Whitebeard, and they're just kind of talking to each other. And we have one of the explosives goes off as they're all trying to, like, escape. And Shiki's, like, laughing about it. And he's like, this way the rest of us all get bigger cuts. Suckers. And we have, like, the priest are still yelling at them. It's just like, dang it, those bastards knew everything about us. Isn't the army here yet? They're closer. Then we can't let them escape. Yes, sir, High Priest. Lord High Priest. So, this is, again, this play on the whole thing that, like, a lot of religious leaders throughout history have used their power and influence to have money sent to them. There's still ones that do this today, obviously. No arguments here about that. They do that to every religion. There's ones that will use their influence to scheme and scam people out of money and use it for themselves when they say it's going to be donated to the poor and all of that other stuff, when it's not. It's just for them. So these priests seem to have, like, pulled a lever or whatever, that have dropped these, like, giant iron bars, or that just sprung up, and they are trapping in the group that is there, that is at the very least Stussy and Big Mom and some of the others. And it's like, seal the temple. It's just like, oh no, the iron bars just sprang up out of nowhere. And Big Mom's like, yeah, they're trying to trap us. I'll just burst out of here, burst through, out of the way. And she's getting ready to, like, charge at them. And then we just have the island goes, nope. like the whole area around the island just goes, nope. And this is where we see that Whitebeard, that Newgate, does have his devil fruit. He does have, or at the very least someone here, we're going to find out it's Newgate in a second, but that is Whitebeard, that someone has the Gura Gura no Mi, the, Quake fruit, which is one of the ones that we don't have the design for yet, so I haven't been able to make a pearl repeat of it. And this is very similar to what we saw happen at Marineford, where Marineford just went, one side went, nope, and the other side went, nope. Just the ground going, nope, and nope. And the island's just being shaken and stirred. And it's just like, there was the theory in the last chapter that, because, like, we haven't seen Whitebeard use his devil fruit ability yet, use the Quake fruit, that maybe he didn't have it yet. And, like, there was the whole thing about, because Barbell showed up, and Barbell is a catfish fishman, that maybe he was going to have the Gura Gura no Mi to begin with, and then he will die, like, during, the God Valley incident, and they will then grab the, then Whitebeard will end up with the Gura Gura no Mi that way. That's one of the thoughts that people had, just because catfish are tied to earthquakes in Japanese mythology, but that doesn't seem to be the case. He does have it, and there's like, what the hell, is the island sinking? No, this is an earthquake. It's got to be his handiwork. And then we have Big Mom, Stussy, Gantui, Don Marlin, and Streisand are all just, like, being shaken up, and I think it's Stussy or Big Mom that are just screaming, Newgate, as they're just being shaken all around. And then it's just like, the temple is falling apart. And we just see Barbell is there as well, and Barbell and Ochoko are just screaming their heads off at what's going on now. Like, the island's just kind of getting destroyed. And we cut out to presumably outside, or what is now outside because the building has collapsed. We have Kaido, Whitebeard, and Shiki. And Kaido's like, gotta admit, I'm a bit jealous I can't do that. To be fair, it is a cool power. No argument here. Sengoku's even like, yeah, that power could destroy the world in the wrong hands. And in that statement there, I think that is partly of Sengoku admitting that, okay, yeah, that power in the wrong hands could destroy the world. Thankfully, Whitebeard is at the very least a reasonable man and doesn't seem to want to do that. And then we have Whitebeard going like, interesting in getting a power, huh? Yeah, you'd better choose wisely. If you seek out one, you'll be stuck with it for life. And Kaido's like, yeah, good point. Now, Kaido's like 17 here, I think, because, as I said, this is supposed to be 42 years ago, so this is another like 4 years until the God Valley incident. So Kaido's about 17 here, because I think he's 21, if I remember correctly, when the God Valley incident occurs. So, yeah, Whitebeard's like, yeah, you should probably be careful if you go looking for a devil fruit, because you want to make sure that if you can find one that you really want, and if you can find it and you can eat it, then sure. But if you just find a random one, you have no idea, and whatever you're going to get, you're going to be stuck with for the rest of your life. Plus, you're going to lose your ability to swim. And, you know, depending on what power you get, that may not be the best trade-off in the world. And Kaido's like, yeah, that's a good point. And then we just have Shiki who's like, who was it? Which one of you tried to pinch us, ditch us down there? And then we have Ochako is pointing at Shiki, and we have Silver Axe is here, and they're yelling at each other, and he's like, figures it'd be you, Shiki. And then Shiki's like, oh, Kyo-kun, thank goodness you survived. I was so worried about you, as he's trying to look innocent. I'm like, Shiki, you can't look innocent. That is not a feature that you possess. So now we have Rox here, and we have all the others who are trying to scramble to get all the loot onto the ship, and we see him and John. We see Gonzui here as well. And Rox is like, what the hell are you all doing? Everyone, move it! And he's like, I'm gonna kill your ass. And I was just like, you at least kept the treasure safe, right? Of course. Hey, Rox, look at the shore. And that's Captain John pointing this out. And they turn, and like they're just standing on the rubble around the island, and they're looking out at the ocean, and they're seeing like these 6 Navy ships showing up. There's probably more. It's like, it's the Navy, and he's like, oh, new challengers have shown up. Hey, knock it off with the infighting. This ain't the time. We should have been getting ready to ship off. So we have more of, the Marines are showing up. We see one of the Marines kind of gets a little bit of focus, but I don't think it's one we've seen before. This is 42 years ago, so yeah, we know that Garp, Suru, and Sengoku are Marines at this point in time. We'll see them in a little bit in this chapter, but we don't really have who this Marine is. It's just some random, probably Vice Admiral. And Whitebeard's like, the Marines are everywhere. That was fast. Did someone leak our plans? And they're like, screw it, no point. And it's just Rox shouting. It's like, screw it, no point prepping to sail now. Get ready to fight. Plunder everything. Sink them all. And we just get, another crazy Rox face. And we have the narrator coming on. In a mere 2 years since their formation, the record of the Rox pirates spoke for itself. And we just see them, like, destroying these Navy ships as they're sailing away. 16 documented raids. 76 sunken ships. 14 ports reduced to ash. 5 towns wiped off the map. 1 nation brought to ruin. And we see Rock, he's doing his weird sword swing where he can just, like, blow everything away. 3 unprecedented violations of Article 18 of international law. What is that like the Geneva Convention? Is that what that's referencing? The Geneva Code? And 25 criminal records quietly erased. It's like, yeah, that's not good. And we just see them just destroying these Navy battleships. Even with the future Pirate King Gold D. Rogers sailing the seas, it would not be an overstatement to refer to this period as the era of Rox. Yeah. So we have that. Now we're going to cut to a different area. We're going to cut back to the New World, to an kingdom called Enishi in the New World. And we have Harald's ship having shown up at this island that looks like it's kind of been attacked. And we have these Navy ships that are here sailing away. And unfortunately, these Navy ships have a bunch of the citizens on it. We're going to find out very quickly that this is not an island that is affiliated with the world government. Which means, in the opinion of certain people, means they can do whatever the heck they want to the citizens since they're not part of the world government. So, we have the Marines are Den Mushi megaphoning at Harald. And it's just like, what are you doing? Leave this place at once, Harald. All non-affiliated nations are considered lawless territories. Don't concern yourself with the humans living here. They have no rights. And Harald, who now we have seen, he's kind of grown out more of that. He's grown out of like kind of the more boyish teenager 20s-ish features that we've kind of seen him have in previous chapters. His hair is much shorter and more kept, more well kept. He still has his horns, so he hasn't ripped them off yet. And he's got like his mustache and the beard and stuff. He's getting closer and closer to the way that he kind of looked in the portrait that we saw of him hanging in the throne room. And it's like, that's messed up. The world government can't just decree everything like that. Let them go. This country gave aid to Elbath during our famine out of the kindness of their hearts. They're our friends, our saviors. And we see the citizens, so we know that this is a navy now because we're seeing one of, I don't remember, yeah, we see the world, so this is not a navy ship, this is a world government ship. Not a huge difference, but it is a difference. But this is a world government ship because the flag has the sail has the world government symbol on it. So it's not one of the Celestial Dragon ship, it's just one of the other random ships that is part of the world government. And we have a guy here who, I don't know, maybe someone will probably ask his name. He might be one of the CP agents. That's kind of the way that he's dressed, but he's got kind of like you know, the admiral type coat and everything like that, minus the epaulets. So maybe he's a high-ranking member of one of the CP agencies. Maybe not quite CP 0 because he's not wearing all white, and that's what they're supposed to wear. Probably not CP9 either, but maybe one of the other CP organizations, or just someone else who's affiliated with that section of the world government. And we see the citizens of this kingdom have all been like tied up, and some of them are gagged, and they're like, King Harald, save us, just, you know, begging him to help them. And as we have seen, this is very much reminiscent of what we saw on Sphinx Island when Marco was gone, and whatever Rear Admiral, whatever, Vice Admiral, whatever the heck, Ratigan or whatever it was that showed up. I just call him Ratigan because I don't really care. Showed up on the island and was like threatening the citizens to tell them where Whitebeard's treasure was, even though there was no treasure, and they were willing to hurt the citizens that were there. The sleazy rat-based dude that showed up there that everybody's like, oh my god, it's Nezumi's brother. And he, you know, he shows up there. But, you know, on Sphinx and was threatening those people. This is a very similar situation. This guy does not look like either Nezumi or the Rat Marine, but he doesn't look, you know, maybe there's a connection to someone that's still alive, but I can't tell. Or maybe he is still alive. I don't know. This is 42 years ago. It's quite possible he's still alive. But what ends up happening is, you know, this is very similar to what we saw, except this is kind of like the next steps, where it's just like, oh, these people, they have no rights under the right of the world government. Very similar to the way that Aramaki acted when he was in Wano and was dealing with the scabbards in Momonosuke here. He's just like, your guys are lower than dirt. You're not even affiliated with the world government, which means that you're not even human, and I can do whatever I want to you, and there will be no repercussions for me. No, your repercussions are that you're going to get freaking terrified by Yonko with just his hockey blast coming at you. So yeah, no, go away, Aramaki. And so we have this, and we have this guy here, and we have Harald shouting at them, And it's just like, we're not leaving without repaying our debt. Which, as he just mentioned, is, why do I still have something in my eye? As Harald mentioned, it's like, this is one of the kingdoms that this Inishi kingdom had sent food and such to Elbath. They were one of the kingdoms that we saw that sent all of those ships filled with food to Elbath to help with the famine. What we saw, all those years ago. And he's like, we're not leaving until we, without repaying this debt. And the, I don't know, Navy dude, whatever, is just like, Harald, you understand that Elbath is under consideration for becoming a member nation, correct? So this confirms that at the very least at this point in time, 42 years ago, they're being considered for this position. Now, I believe 42 years ago is when there also would have been another reverie. So I think that's correct. I'm not sure. 42 is divisible by 3, so I would think that it would be another year of a reverie. So it's like maybe that's something that's being considered for that year's reverie, or for the next time around reverie. And so that at least at the moment, Elbath is being considered for that. And the guy continues, intervening to help us would be one thing. Is like, if you were intervening in the situation to help us, like if we were being attacked by pirates or something like that, that's fine. But you'll only hurt your membership bid if you intervene on behalf of a non-affiliated country. So it's just like, yeah, if you were helping us, there'd be no problem here. But that's not why you're here. You're here because you want to help these people who are not even affiliated with the world government, who are not even considered people by the world government. And he's just like, stay out of the way, Harald. And then he just shoots one of the women that's one of the captives. Just shoots her in the shoulder. Does not care. Which, of course, pisses Harald the fuck off. Yes. And he's like, you scum, you aren't human. And he jumps in, and we have this great shot of, like, him jumping with his sword and just, like, getting ready to, like, slice up the ship. King Harald exposed. Elbath monarch sinks innocent battleship. Alliance with government revealed as a ploy. And it's like the World Economic Journal headline. So this is all just a propaganda. This is all just going against, this is, either a ploy to have it be set up that, like, someone is, this is happening. They targeted specifically this non-affiliated member nation that they know helped Elbath, and they're trying to bait Harald to try to get him to not do this, so that way they'll make him even more desperate, because we're going to see something at the end of the chapter that implies this might be like a long game to see how desperate they can make Harald before he will submit to their demands, essentially. We cut back to Elbath. We cut to the Ida's Tavern on the outskirts of Elbath. And we have it that the Rox pirates have shown up again. So Rox and Harald are sitting in here. Presumably they're not all here because Big Mom is not allowed on the island. Or at the very least, if she is there, she's staying on the ship. So we have Rox going like, you see, that's the government for you. Let's drink at the castle, Harald. And Harald's just like, don't be dumb. I'm not letting a man with your reputation, with a man his reputation as bad as yours, come into the mainland. I am not doing that. And he's like, your whole nation should be joining up with me. Come on, Harald, give it up. Come on, give it up. Just come on, just join us. It's fine. Come on, join us. It's just like, I can't stand seeing you grovel to the world government anymore. And as we saw in the previous chapter with, like, Rox, he willingly wants Harald to join them. He wants Harald to willingly join them. He doesn't want to coerce Harald into this or anything like that because he considers Harald his friend. He wants to try to make it that Harald, wants to be a part of the Rox pirates. And as, Rox isn't threatening him. He refused to let Kaido threaten him in the last chapter. I mean, got Kaido hit in the face because of it. So it's, again, he actually very much values Harald's friendship. He also does, it is part of his plan, but because if he just wanted Harald just for his power, He'd like literally like just threaten Loki's life, probably Hyrudine's as well, and a bunch of other people's lives on Elbath, in order to force Harald to join them. But that's not the way that Rox views this. The others that are on his crew, he's won in Davy back fights, or like Gloriosa and, you know, Kyo, some of the others, probably showed up and just joined him. Whereas in the case of Harald, he's like, oh, I've had my eye on him for a while, but he's my friend, so I don't really want to force him to join us, but he is part of the plan that I have, and I need him to eat this specific devil fruit that they have, so, I don't want to force him, but I really want to make my plan work, but I don't want to force Harald because he's my friend. So it's like this back and forth thing. So Harald's like saying, sooner or later, Elbath will become a member nation of the world government. And we have it, we see inside the bar, we see Ida just like standing there peeling apples for them to eat, which are just like giant apple slices. Adorable. And, Harald's there talking. He has subsequently shaved his head, which is going to get mentioned in a moment. He has like shaved his head, and we see the battle paint lines put on his face, which he did not have earlier in the chapter. So those are new. Those are either just like a new thing that he actually physically puts on there, or he had it tattooed there. And then we just see Rox sitting on the bar, which is adorable. And Rox is like, did you think shaving your head was a sign of good faith? Is that a cultural thing you got from somewhere? Just laughing. I was trying to think if there would be any specific countries that we've seen in One Piece that seem to have that as a thing. And I'm like, I don't think so. Skypiea had a little bit where some of the Shandians kind of had semi-shaved heads or something like that. But I don't know if that was a cultural thing or just more of a personal thing for each of them. I was trying to think. I don't think there's any where they specifically just shave their heads bald. But that's I can't think of anything else besides that. And Harald's like, yeah, Garp laughed at me too. He's like, yeah, Garp laughed at me too. And Rox is like, Garp, that guy hates the top brass. He'd also be better off as a pirate. And I love that joke. I love that joke there because I love the fact that Harald and Garp are kind of friends. And Garp saw this and just laughed at Harald. It's just like, why did you shave your head? And just laughed at him. I also like the idea that Rox seems to have a bit of a respect for Harald. Or, well, he has respect for Harald, but has a bit of respect for Garp. But he's also he'd be better off as a pirate. Yeah. Which is, I love that that's the reference to, the, one of the original things in One Piece, for one of the Romance Dawn chapters, where, we see, the Garp prototype, and he was originally a pirate and brought the, one of the gum fruits to Luffy for him to eat, and Luffy didn't want to be a pirate, but then he did want to be a pirate. So it's a callback to that. I like that. And Harald is continuing. It's just they're a massive organization, sure, but they have corrupt trash in their ranks. List off any different corrupt marine that we've had in the ranks. But the Navy is a fine army. The average marine helps save people on a day-to-day basis. That is true. We have seen that so many different times throughout the course of the story. And we've also seen the very corrupt marines. We've seen those were the majority of the marines that we unfortunately encountered in the East Blue. That was the way that Morgan's was, just based around, or the way that Morgan was based around because of what, what he was hypnotized to think. And then we had Nezumi, and, and we had those ones. And then, there was, a whole arc that was, the filler arc. That was, the Battle Warship Island arc or whatever. That had, the evil Marines in it. And then, and we've dealt with Akainu, and we've dealt with Aramaki, and, Kizaru, who's a little more up in the air about things. And, and we've seen like other corrupt Marines or other Marines that are not willing to try to fight against the system. And then we've seen ones that are. And then we've seen ones that we haven't seen enough of them to determine which side of this they land on. And then we've literally just seen the Marine, and then we have the Marines that are literally just trying to protect people. Kobe and the members of SWORD fall into this situation. Kuzan fell into this situation. Fujitora definitely falls into this situation. I would say that Garb Sengoku, and Suru all fall into this situation. Just for how they are. There's, other, Smoker and Tashigi very much fall into this situation. Even when we just first met them back at Logtown, they still fell into this situation and everything. By the way, I did watch the the teaser, and I think the guy that they're having Smoker looks pretty good. I still want them to have the scene where he runs into the little girl with the ice cream and then he gives her money. I still want that to be a thing. He's like, I'm sorry, my pants ate your ice cream. Here, buy 2 more scoops. I really want that to still be in there because that is adorable. And that is like the scene that shows you, okay, he's not like the other trash Marines that we've seen. He's not like Nezumi or Morgan, that type of stuff. He's better. And, there's been other Marines. Some of the other Marines that we saw that were with Fujitora at Dressrosa fall into this category, as well as of the better Marines that are just there to legitimately just try to protect people. To a degree, a lot of the Marines that were at Marineford kind of fall into this category as well, but we don't know that entirely simply just because we haven't seen that many of them. But yeah, a good chunk of them sincerely are there because they want to try to protect people. T-Bone very much falls into that category. With everything that we saw with T-Bone, he falls into that category. May he rest in peace. I wonder if Harald and T-Bone ever interacted. I think they'd get along. And we have Harald continuing. He says, like, some of them already come from Elbaf, like John Giant. Which, yeah, to be fair, he was kind of human trafficked into being a Marine, so that doesn't 100% qualify, but sure. I was like, if more of our country's warriors follow suit, they could use their boundless strength to really make a difference for people everywhere. True. That is true. But if they are essentially kind of just have all of this protocol and everything drummed into them for who they're supposed to, listen to, and the rules they're supposed to follow and everything else like that, then it can kind of be something that is beaten out of them, literally. And Rock is like, now that's terrifying. It's like, why don't you talk some sense into him, Ida? And Ida's like, I wish I could. If Harald was my son, I'd tell him, you should choose your friends wisely. And then Rox is just like, hey, don't take shots at me. Or no, I think it's Harald that says that. But then we cut to the other panel, like, Ida's just kind of like smiling. And then we cut to the other panel, and that is Hyrudine, Mato, the little girl, and then Loki are all just like sitting here. And I think they're inside the bar because Mato is like trying to give Loki like a drink. And Hyrudine's got like a mug next to him. So I'm thinking that this is supposed to be like they're sitting in the bar listening to this conversation, or they're sitting just outside the bar and listening to this conversation. But the fact that the panel has the choose your friends wisely situated over it with Hyrudine, Mato, and Loki is kind of also this reference to the you should choose your friends wisely. Some of those friends might be your brother. Some of those friends might be the girl that works at the pub. Some of those might be other kids that live on the island, no matter how weird they may be. Or one of them is just a straight up dweeb who will later trap people in a mini Lego castle for his own enjoyment. Road. So we have that. So I'm kind of thinking that there's that there. It's kind of what they're going for. Jumping away from Elbaf, jumping to Navy HQ, which would be the original Navy HQ that would be in the Paradise side of the grand line at the end of the first half, where everything happened with Marineford. And now we're having this conversation. And it's like, if a giant were to roll over in their sleep, people could be crushed to death. If one just loses their temper, lives could be lost. Do you really think humans can coexist with such creatures? That's the gist of what they told me. And it's just like, they really said all that. Yep. So this is a bunch of people. So as I said, this is supposed to be taking place the same year that there's going to be a reverie, or that there may have already been a reverie. And my thought is that, because we're going to cut to the next panel, and we have Vice Admiral Garp, Luffy's grandpa. Well, he's not Luffy's grandpa yet. Luffy doesn't even exist yet. He's Dragon's father at the moment. Vice Admiral Sengoku, future Fleet Admiral. Vice Admiral Suru, future Great Staff Master. And Admiral Kong, future Commander-in-Chief. Also future Fleet Admiral, then Commander-in-Chief. So we're getting to see all of these ones. And one of the things that we have here is Suru has light-colored hair here, as opposed to the way that she was drawn in film Z, where we see her have darker-colored hair. She has light-colored hair here. I'm assuming this is supposed to be in reference to the fact that she is Kujaku's grandmother, and that Kujaku has blonde hair. And if they're trying to do this thing where they're tying in Hotogisu, who is, I believe, the blonde-haired Marine that we see with Suru a lot, that a lot of us think is possibly Suru's daughter and Kujaku's mother, that Suru having blonde hair would make sense to have all three of them have blonde hair. Could just be Suru went gray early. I don't know. But so all of those comments that we just had about the giants and like how dangerous they are may have been world leaders who were at the reverie, or just other Marines discussing the dangers, the stereotypical, the typing of the way that the giants would act. And Garp is not happy about this. Garp is like, they're fine letting him join the Navy, but that's all, huh? And they're all just like eating their lunch or whatever. And Sengoku is like, Harald is an honest man. He's trying to learn from history and change Elbath. And Suru is just like, there's rumors he's being scouted by rocks. If that's true, the Navy might not be able to stand against them. True. And Kong is like, you make good points, but it is what it is. Damn it, we're really stuck between a rock and a hard place. And I know a lot of people I know Tekking used that for his video title. I have not watched any others. I wanted to get this done before I watched anybody else's. To be fair, if this hadn't gone up last night and I didn't have the chance to do it this morning, this would not get done and be up probably until like Friday evening, because I work tonight and then I work tomorrow morning, and I would not have had time to get the video done in between. And then Kong continues, still, we can't deny their wild and violent track record. Technically, no, but that's blaming them for what their ancestors did, which is the same thing that the world government has done with the giants, has done with the Buccaneers, has done with probably other, races and everything else like that. And then Garp is like, that's exactly the kind of strength I'm after, Kong. As in, like, Garp wants that type of strength to have. And I love the fact that all three of these guys are already vice admirals. They only joined 48 years ago. This is 6 years later, and they're all already vice admiral level. To be fair, Garp and Suru are going to stay vice admiral level for probably the rest of their lives. Sengoku is the one that will move on to eventually be an admiral, and then eventually be the fleet admiral, and then eventually he'll retire, and now he's like the general inspector or whatever he's called. But, as mentioned by Garp, or as, has been stated about Garp, he doesn't want to move up in the ladder any further, because if he becomes an admiral, then he is at the direct beck and call of the Celestial Dragons, and he doesn't want that. Garp continues, just hurry and make Elbaf a member nation already. If it were up to me, it wouldn't be an issue. So now we're getting the confirmation that this is 42 years ago. So we have 42 years ago, Hachinosu. And we see that the Skull Island now essentially looks the way that we pictured it would. Or the way that it does in present day with, the eye holes. And, like, the stuff on the side has kind of been shifted into look more like the bandana. And, like, the top of the mountain's been carved up a little bit more to look more like, a pirate with a bandana. And we have it that a bunch of these newspapers are arriving at the island. And all of the citizens are like, oh, my God. It's like, this is huge. This is really huge. This is big news. Shakuyaku has quit as captain of the Kuta Pirates. That means there's no chance we'll run into her at sea anymore. And they're just like, no! Like, they're all having just, like, mental breakdowns about this. And we see, like, the cover of the newspaper is, this, like, special edition is Shocky, is young Shocky and everything, looking just as beautiful as ever. And they're like, no! They're all just, like, all having mental breakdowns. Like, no, it can't be. I set sail because I dreamed of being attacked by Shakuyaku's Kuja pirates. Damn it! We've wasted our youth. Shocky! It's like them just all screaming. Hi. Mommy's fine. Hi. Here's your go boo boo. You're my good boo boo. Yes, you are. If you move that way a little bit. Yes, I know I love you. And then we cut into whatever section of the rocks of Hachinosu where, like, the rocks pirates stay. And we have Big Mom and Gloriosa. We also have Gloriosa's snake, who I don't think we ever got a name for her snake. Also, I don't think this is the same snake that she has present day, because the snake that she has present day is purple, and this one is not. Or at the very least, does not look like it would be colored dark enough to be purple. So, we also see 3 others here around them. We see Katakuri standing on Big Mom's shoulder. We see Oven and Daifuku standing next to Gloriosa as Big Mom and Gloriosa are discussing things. Big Mom's also just downing a giant thing of, like, wine or something. Also, I would have loved it if Oda had drawn Big Mom pregnant here. Because 42 years ago, her last birth that she had would have been Brule and Broye. And then what would have been her next birth? What would have been the next one? It was Brule and Boye, and then... Where is it? I know I have them here. And then it would have been the next set that she would have had, or that she would have, would be Charlotte Storte, Bascarte, and Dos Marche. So I would have liked it if Oda had drawn Big Mom pregnant here. As a possibility, that's something that might get shifted around in the volume once it comes out in the Tankobon. It would be nice for him to draw Big Mom pregnant so we can, like, see her pregnant, because we've never actually seen her pregnant. Plus, it would play in better to, like, what Gloriosa is going to say in a second. And Gloriosa is reading the newspaper, and she's like, "What are you up to, Shocky?" And Big Mom's like, "Do you reckon she quit so she could chase after a man like you did, Gloriosa?" It's like, does love always lead to ruin on the Isle of Women? And Gloriosa's like you know anything about the pain of love. You crank out kids like popcorn. She says, surrounded by 3 of Big Mom's children. As I said, it would have been nice if they showed Big Mom pregnant here. If Oda had drawn her pregnant here. You know, at least enough to show that she was pregnant. That would have been nice. And then Gloriosa continues. Anyway, I honestly can't imagine her getting lovesick. I'd never forgive her if she went after Roger. She's not going after Roger, don't worry. And then we have Shocky, or not Shocky, and then we cut over to Stussy and Whitebeard, who are listening in on this conversation. And Stussy is just like, that's always Shocky this and Shocky that. And she glances over at Whitebeard. She's like, at least you've only got eyes for me, right, Newgate? And Newgate is just... Whitebeard's just sitting over there cleaning Murokumi, cleaning his Bicento, and he's just like, I've never been in love with you. He's like, nope, you're a crazy woman. I've never been in love with you. And then we have it that Stussy just jumps on her. It's just like, what did you just say? I'm the popular sensation, Miss Bucking. He's like, ain't that enough? And she's like, no, I want you. Oh, Stussy. Oh, Miss Bucking. Miss Bucking. It's like, no way, something crazy is happening. And we cut out of Hachinosu as we see that a ship is sailing toward Hachinosu. And it's like, what's wrong? It's like, it's the Kuja pirates. They're coming towards the coast. Huh? What? And we see the perfume Yuta is sailing toward the island. And it is landing, and Shocky has gotten off of the boat with her suitcase. And it's just like, in the Pirate Islands history, this incident is said to rank among the greatest, even with all that has yet to come. The arrival of the world's most beautiful idol caused a commotion in this hive of murderous fiends. And we see Shocky getting off the ship, and we just see all of the men are just like, it's a goddess. I can die happy. And she's like, thanks for the ride, Tritoma. This will do. And it's like, yes, ma'am. So it's Shocky saying goodbye to Tritoma, which now Tritoma is going to be the one that's the empress. She must be strong for her age, I'm assuming. And this, so back on Sabaody when they first met Shocky said she quit being a pirate about 40 years ago. So that would line up with this, because now that would be 42 years ago. So now that would line up with this part of the flashback. So this is Shocky just like quitting being a pirate. She doesn't have the love sickness. She's just quit being a pirate because she doesn't want to be a pirate anymore for whatever reason. We're going to see what she wants to do instead. And they're like, so this is Pirate Island. And then they're all just like, what brings you here, ma'am? This land is too filthy for you. You mustn't go any further. And like they're all just like stunned by her beauty. And it's just like, tears blur my vision, yet her light still blinds me. Is she real or am I dreaming? So pretty. And I'm just like, this very much reminds me of the moment in Wano when we see Hiyori, when we see Komurasaki for the first time, when we see all of that for the first time. When, you know, when we get to see her as she's making part of the procession down the down one of the main streets in Wano, in the flower capital, and just how all the citizens are just like, oh my! It's like, it reminds me very much of that. The thing is that, again, one of the things that, like, Gloriosa, like, Shocky knows she's beautiful. Shocky knows that she is beautiful. She is not denying that, and she does use it to her advantage, but she doesn't feed it into her arrogance the way that Hancock does. As I have stated before, when I did the discussions about Hancock, and I have stated subsequently, I understand why she is the way that she is and how arrogant she is for what happened to her. For what happened to her and her sisters, and how she needs to keep herself guarded because of that, and there's very few people that she lets her walls down for. Shocky knows she's beautiful, does to a degree use it to her advantage, but it doesn't make her arrogant. Gloriosa kind of did that as well, where she knew she was beautiful and she was using it as her own arrogance as well. I mean, like, Nami also uses her beauty as a weapon. Robin does as well. Other women that we've seen in One Piece will use their beauty as a weapon, which is fair. And they're just like, wait a minute, are you joining the Rocks Pirates like Gloriosa? What a knockout, what a babe. And she's like, no, I just want to live here for a while. What? And they're all just like, oh my god. It's like, quitting won't matter to the Marines. They'll always be after me since I was a pirate. So I'm gonna hide out here for a while with all of you. And we just see like all of the hearts. Just like, you'll protect me, right? Oh, good lord, she is good at... also, the outfit that she is wearing is very similar to Hancock's outfit. Now, Gloriosa was also wearing a very similar outfit as Empress. And, you know, some of the other Kujo we've seen wear semi-similar outfits, so it's not that big of an issue. But just for headcanon purposes, I kind of like the idea of, like, we know that Shaki and Rayleigh and Gloriosa take in the Boa sisters after they escape, after, you know, Fisher Tiger shows up and frees a bunch of the slaves and everything else like that. I like the idea of it being that, like, when they get back, that some of the only clothes that they have that can fit them are some of Shaki's old clothes. And those clothes then end up being what they end up wearing for a little while as they're healing and getting better. Plus, it puts them back in the Kuja garb, so they can maybe start to feel a little more comforted by that. Type of a thing. Like, Shaki may have kept very good care of her clothes. Same thing with Gloriosa. And then that maybe some of those clothes are now Boa, you know, Hancock kind of bases her style a little bit off of that. Or this just might be the traditional outfit that, like, the Empress of Amazon Lily wears. So she's just like, you'll protect me, right? And then we cut back on Pirate Island, seeing, like, the whole landscape, and then it's just like, of course we will. This place smells. We'll clean it up right away. I want to open a store. We'll build one for you. Let's grow some flowers for her. I love the fact that she is just literally like, this place smells. We'll clean it. Just like runs around cleaning everything. That'd be so funny. I want to open a store. We'll build you one. I love that. It's like, we'll also grow flowers for her. Okay. Side comment. And I thought about this when I read this before. So, when Kobe was being saved on Hachinosu, when Hibari was using, like, the flower bullets to save him. And, like, the flowers were all growing and the pirates are like, oh, they're pretty. I wonder if any of them that was just like, oh, they're pretty like the flowers we made for Mishaki. Oh, wait, no. Wait, what's going on? Type of thing. And then now we have a bunch of the men from the Rocks Pirates are showing up here. We see Rocks, Marlin, Whitebeard, Shiki, I think that's Kyo, Gonzui. I think we see the tip of Gonzui's armor are all showing up here. And they're just like, hey, what's all the noise? Why are you rats making such a racket? And it's just like, the Rocks crew is back. This is bad. Don't blame her, Captain Rocks. This was our doing. It's like, what's she doing here? What? And it's like, look it up, and we see the pirate island of Hachinosu was abuzz with excitement. Shaki's ripoff bar had finally opened. They say the wait just to get in would take over a month. So this is the origin of Shaki's ripoff bar. I love this. It's just, it like the bar, it's very similar to the way that she ends up having the bar on Sabaody years later when we see it. And it's just, now there's, at Sabaody, there's just like a bubble on top because all the buildings in Sabaody have bubbles. But this one, it's like, it's literally like the same sign. I want it to be that she took the sign with her when she left. And it's just like, Rox is like, what the hell is this? And we just see all of the other pirates are just like, and then like Shaki comes out. And it's just like, oh, welcome. I'm so happy to see you. You'll be my first customers. And she's like putting on like the apron that says Shaki and it's got like the Kuja symbol on it. It's just like, would you like a drink? And all of the Rocks men are just like, oh, she's an angel. Like, Oh my god, it's just like all their hearts are popping out of their chest. Don Marlon even has a little heart coming out of his cigar, which is adorable. So just all of them just like, oh my god, they're all blown away by how beautiful and how sweet she is. I love that. Just like, Shakuyaku was the flower blooming in the dry wasteland. Her very presence enriched the island. We're getting to something. The inhabitant of Hachinosu came to covet her as a treasure, an irreplaceable crown jewel. A lot of people are going to point this out. Pretty sure a lot of them can make the connection to this. Could be wrong. I think Shaki is what gets taken is the treasure that gets taken from Hachinosu. That gets taken from Hachinosu 38 years ago and is taken to God Valley as like one of the prizes. Because like the way that we see it when it comes to the Celestial Dragons is that yes, the devil fruits are good prizes for them. Money is one thing. Maybe some other rare artifact or rare food or something like that was in one of the treasure chests. To be fair, the treasure chests are not big enough to have Shaki in them. But maybe what happened was they had Shaki as like the grand prize for whoever won. And whoever won the tournament, whoever won the God Valley tournament, which we know ended up being Garling, maybe she was the prize. As like, oh, and you know, like, and it wasn't mentioned, or at least it hadn't been mentioned yet in the bits that we saw. There was something else where it's just like, oh, and yes, the grand prize winner will be receiving this lovely gift. Former Empress of the Kuja Pirate, Shakuyaku, the most beautiful woman in the world, type of a thing. You know, what if that was what happened? What if she was the thing that was taken? And then not only was, like, the Rocks Pirates showing up because of the devil fruits that, like, you know, that Ginny let slip, that she made everybody aware of, but what if it was also Shaki is on the island and we have to save Shaki? Because Gloriosa would want to save her because Gloriosa and Shaki are friends. And then, like, Rox and all the rest of the guys on the crew were in love with her, so they would want to save her in that regard. And then maybe what ended up happening was, you know, the Roger Pirates were there as well. We know that they showed up and, like, they all ended up fighting against Rox and Garp and all of that other stuff happened there. Maybe what ended up happening, and one of the reasons that Shaki ended up falling for Rayleigh was that if she was one of the things that was captured, maybe Rayleigh ended up fighting against Garling or something like that. Like, Garling was declared the winner, and then he tries to get Shaki. He tries to take Shaki, and Rayleigh is the one who shows up, frees Shaki, you know, defeats or whatever Garling, and then frees Shaki, and then that's when Shaki's love sickness starts to happen for Rayleigh. That's when she starts to realize that she's in love with Rayleigh. What if that's what ends up happening? I think that would be, like, a good way of doing it, in all honesty. Of, like, showing that. Because, like, she's not with Rayleigh yet. She doesn't seem to have love sickness or anything like that. We saw them kind of flirt in the last chapter, but it was more just her, because, like, oh, he doesn't have an interest in me. Oh, well, he's cute. And, like, she hasn't developed that yet. Maybe that'll happen later. Like, maybe that's what's going to happen. That's just my thought at the moment, just given, like, this way that, like, it's very, very stated. It's, like, and we'll see how it's, like, set up in the official translation, but, like, something is stated that it was, like, she was a treasure to them, coveted. And, like, we see them in the bar, and she's like, oh, I can't open it. And, like, the others are like, well, I'll open it for you. They're all just, like, dashing at her to try to open the thing. And Rox is just like, oh, it's like, I'll give you a hand. And it's just like, this place smells great. And it's just like, all the men are just like, oh, she's so pretty. I love it. Even Streusen is there. Cut to Marie-Joie, the room of authority. Marie-Joie. Very well. Relay this to Harald. We shall accept Elbaf's admission into the world government on one condition. The warriors of Elbaf must kill Rox. And we see Marcus Mars Gandalf's brother. We see Marcus Mars, and this is essentially like what they've been leading up to. It's just like, okay, we keep dangling the carrot in front of Harold in front of Harold for him to become a member of the world government, for Elbaf to become a member of the world government. If we keep dangling that carrot in front of him and keep, moving the goalposts a little bit at a time, or a lot at a time, if he's really desperate enough, that's why I think the other thing was like a calculated move of going after one of the nations that had helped Elbaf in that regard. It was like, oh, Harold won't be able to resist protecting them, and that'll put his chances in danger again. Keep moving the goalpost for what he has to do, and it's just like, now he has to kill Rox, which it's like this whole thing of like, well, if he succeeds, we'll let him into the world government, and if not, if he succeeds, we kill two birds with one stone. Rox is dead. We've gotten rid of that threat. And then, Harold will end up being, whatever. He'll be someone that we can, pull into the world government, and then we can use whatever resources we want from Elbaf. So, two birds with one stone there. There is a break next week. Don't know if it's going to be a new Devil Fruit video or a movie review video next week. I don't know. It depends on what my work schedule looks like. But yeah, we have that. That's the end of this chapter. So that's what we have. I thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye.